In today's video, we're here to talk about Typhlosion, my favorite starter in the Pokemon franchise of all time. It's not even close. Typhlosion clears every single starter. But last year, Typhlosion faced some unfortunate circumstances due to the Pokemon leaks and, things I'm not going to mention in this video. Typhlosion's reputation has been irreversibly changed, and it's quite sad, to be honest, because now if I say I'm a Typhlosion fan, people are going to be like, do you know what Typhlosion did? I'm just like, Typhlosion might not be able to beat the allegations. Obviously, I'm not a legal person, so I'm not going to discuss whether Typhlosion can beat the allegations or not. But regardless, I'm here to, spread some light on Typhlosion. This Pokemon is still one of the coolest Pokemon of all time. And, I have to give it some respect. And I have to tell everyone else how cool Typhlosion is, despite said allegations. But either way, if you guys do enjoy this video, leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel, join the kingdom. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. But obviously, Typhlosion is still one of the coolest Pokemon of all time. And we're going to be going over many forms of Typhlosion, just to show you guys that this Pokemon is still one of the coolest Pokemon of all time. So we're going to begin with the normal Typhlosion, the typical Typhlosion in the mainline games. And obviously Typhlosion's career has been pretty overshadowed, to be honest. Like, this thing shares the same exact stat spread as Charizard, and for most of Typhlosion's career, it has unfortunately lived in Charizard's shadow, which is a shame, to be honest. The only time where Typhlosion was better than the only time Typhlosion was better than Charizard was back in DPP. Well, they're in the same tier of DPP NU, where Charizard is of course one of the best Pokemon in that tier, but Typhlosion is not too far behind. But generally, Typhlosion did better in Gen 4 because at least it was ranked in DPP UU, where Charizard pretty much had no niche, because in that tier, Typhlosion's, not access to having a 4 times Stealth Rock weakness was more applicable in that tier compared to Charizard's 4x Stealth Rock weakness. And then obviously throughout Black and White and Auras, Typhlosion was ranked higher, even though people that play Auras RU or Black White RU will now tell you Typhlosion is an odd one in that tier. But obviously, you know how the tiering round works with the ladder in the current generation. At the time, Typhlosion saw usage in RU, hence is in RU in Black, White and Auras. And also the fact that you take in BDSP into account as well. Typhlosion did not make an appearance in Sword and Shield. Charizard's in every game, so that's a given. But Typhlosion was able to make it into BDSP NU, where it's pretty much like a top 5 mon, while Charizard is stuck in the PU ban list in the BDSP formats. But overall, Typhlosion, ever since the 4th generation, has kind of just been a one-dimensional sort of threat. It has access to Eruption, one of the only Pokemon that actually get that naturally. It has Focus Blast, has coverage. Obviously, in the previous generations, it had Hidden Power Grass to hit water types, and then, it will just run the other fire type move, whether that's Flamethrower or Fire Blast. And, typically be a Choice Specs or Choice Scarf Mon. And that's pretty much all Typhlosion does in a post-generation 4 metagame. Because, this is the only way it can differentiate itself from other fire types. You try and compare it to things like Magmortar, Delphox, all these Pokemon in the lower tiers where, Typhlosion is going to be facing competition from these guys. I even remember back in Gen 7 PU days, when I started playing PU, Typhlosion was already banned. Both Charizard and Typhlosion in Generation 7 PU easily just got banned from the tier, and anyone that played Gen 7 PU at the time knew that the fire types, if a fire type dropped to PU, it was probably getting banned. Look at PU ban list in Generation 7. You got Charizard, like we mentioned, we got Houndoom, we got Pyro, and obviously things like Magmortar and Typhlosion also got banned from PU at the time, but they moved up to NU while Gen 7 was still the current generation. And even in Gen 7 NU, Typhlosion has no niche. I would even prefer to use Charizard over Typhlosion. Now, that might be a bit controversial, but at least Charizard in Gen 7 had the Z Hold Hands as a, boost, Omni Boost option, which is more than Typhlosion could do. Realistically, if you're using Typhlosion in Gen 7 NU, it's either a Scarfer or Choice Specs Mon. Again, one of the most one-dimensional Pokemon of all time, but it's a very fun one-dimensional Pokemon of all time because Specs Eruption does a whole lot of damage and definitely has a much higher damage output than any other fire type in those tiers. But you have to take into account that you have to make sure hazards are off. So Eruption's always hitting that maximum power. So Typhlosion takes a bit of support to use, but at least in this tier, is going neck and neck with Charizard, but unfortunately most of the time it's been outclassed you know, by Charizard, which is a shame, particularly in Gen 6 and Gen 7 when you know, they got Mega Evolutions. But looking into Generation 9 right now, obviously Typhlosion's in ZU, and there's a current suspect test for Charizard in Gen 9 ZU as well, so it does seem like Charizard is again being better than Typhlosion viability wise. But obviously in Generation 8, Typhlosion got Hisuian form, which is currently sitting in the NU tier. Now, I'm not keeping up with most of the Gen 9 formats, I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. I don't want to be playing in Terra meta games. But, you know, Typhlosion Hisui comes in with 5 less speed and 10 more special attack compared to the regular Typhlosion. And it also gets added with a ghost typing as well. They pretty much have pretty similar move pools. Obviously, it has access to Eruption and, you know, all of the fire moves that Typhlosion gets. But obviously, you have to deal with Stab Shadow Ball as well, which is really, really good for having a secondary stab. And that's Typhlosion's main issue with, you know, dealing with its comparisons with Charizard, is the fact that Charizard has a secondary flying typing, which has been very helpful to Charizard in many generations, particularly in ADV, let's say, where Charizard managed to move up to OU proper because it was a fire type that wasn't getting trapped by Dugtrio, where Typhlosion, you try and use a Typhlosion ADV OU, Dugtrio is just going to come in the next turn and kill you. Well, Charizard doesn't have to worry about that. But now, Hisuian Typhlosion has the shadow, has the ghost stab here and the ghost typing, which is going to offer it quite a nice normal and fighting immunity, poison with resistance, a quad bug resist. Again, bug doesn't really matter, but at least your ×4 resisting U-turn. But yeah, you also get access to moves that typical ghost types get, like Calm Mind. So Typhlosion can either go back to doing its Specs shenanigans or Scarf shenanigans, and then also have like a Boots Calm Mindset that is usable as well. At least that's what I believe Typhlosion is capable of doing in Gen 9 NU. We'll be able to see what sets are available on Hisuian and Typhlosion here. But yeah, you have all-out attack with heavy duty boots. Maybe you could fit Calm Mind onto this set, but again, ghost fighting you know, coverage pretty solid, and then you just have fire stab, or you have the typical choice Scarf Typhlosion, which, you know, has been known for since the 4th generation. Well, yeah, that is it for the mainline Typhlosion games. We're going to be moving on to more interesting Pokemon right now. So we're back on the Pokeathlon server. So obviously we're going to be talking about some fake mons here, but obviously this is a Typhlosion video. So we're going to be talking about Typhlosion's many forms in some multiple fan games, and this is where the interesting stuff come in. So we got Mega Typhlosion from Pokemon Insurgents, which manages to make it into Chaos UU, but this one is still quite a beast in general, to be honest. It gets a new ability exclusive to Insurgents called Hubris, which is basically you know, a Grimnay ability, or the special version of Moxie, let's just say. If you get a KO, your special attack is boosted by 1 stage. Now, Mega Typhlosion, pretty solid design, let's be honest. It goes fully black, it has a lot of flames on it, typical Typhlosion affairs, and the shiny, you know, it pretty much sticks to Typhlosion's regular shiny colors, but obviously the black is much preferred, so I'm going to keep it as non-shiny. So what does Mega Typhlosion really do? Now, it's just a faster Typhlosion with a much higher special attack stat, what can I say? I'm pretty sure his defense has also got boosted a little bit as well, particularly his special defense is now 110, so it's a lot more bulkier now. Thing is, obviously now it's locked out of an item now since it has to hold its Mega Stone, but it still pretty much just does what regular Typhlosion does. You have Eruption, you have the Fire Blast coverage, you have Hidden Power Grass, and Focus Blast, but you're a lot more dangerous compared to regular Typhlosion, because now you're probably wondering, well, Specs Typhlosion, well, not Lifeorb, but Specs Typhlosion is obviously gonna, you know, out damage this. Let's say you get a higher special attack stat after Choice Specs, but you know, you have to take into account that this thing is 10 points faster. It also has an ability that will just give her a Choice Specs boost if it gets a KO, and is a lot bulkier. So, you know, generally is obviously a much better Pokemon than the original Typhlosion, particularly getting that 110 base speed. And I like how Insurgents wanted to make sure that it wasn't basically just a worse Zard Y, because Zard Y comes in at 100 base speed, this has 110 base speed, which is a massive difference, especially if you're to look into Generation 9. Having 110 speed is quite nice to have, and obviously they share the same special attack stat, but you know, you had to find a way to make sure this thing could actually compete with Zard Y, and I still think Zard Y is a better Pokemon, obviously, because Drought just boosting that, like, you basically get choice specs boost on your fire type attacks, while Mega Typhlosion has to, you know, have Hubris, you know, activated in order to get that boost. But, you know, at least it doesn't have to deal with a quad Stealth Rock weakness, and, you know, is faster than Zard Y. So there's give and take, you know, in this sort of thing. And obviously, even in Chaos OU, pretty much one of the highest level power level formats of all time, Zard Y still manages to make it into Chaos OU. So yeah, unfortunately, Typhlosion cannot make it into Chaos OU, but, you know, Mega Typhlosion is a pretty good attempt of, you know, like, if a mainline Mega Typhlosion existed, this is the sort of thing that you'd probably want it to have, just a much higher special attack stat, probably make it faster as well, because you have to differentiate it from Charizard, for example. And obviously this has a better design than Charizard Y, and obviously I'm very biased towards Zardex. I still think Zardex is one of the coolest design Pokemon of all time, but this is still a really solid design here. Now moving on to Delta Typhlosion from the same game. Obviously, I think we've covered regular Mega Delta Typhlosion in one of our previous Fate Mons analysis videos, but you know, looking at the regular Delta Typhlosion first before we talk about his Mega form, obviously he shares the same exact stats as you know, normal Typhlosion, and this isn't anything to write home about. Would not be a crazy Pokemon in you know, Scarlet and Violet in any tier, to be honest. I arguably think this would be worse than regular Typhlosion all the way down in the ZU tier, just because, I don't know, Electric Steel isn't really a crazy typing, especially if you're looking at this in the Gen 9 lens. It loses moves like Hidden Power, so its coverage is really irked. You can't hit electric types, you know, neutrally, unless you run like you don't even get Focus Blast. Like, this thing's move pool is ass. Like, this thing's move pool is really bad. You know, at least the Mega gets away with it because it gets a broken, you know, ability in Rain and New Moon, and then you also get a buff to your stats in general. But yeah, this thing is really suffering on the coverage department. At least, you know, it has T-Bolt, Volt Switch, you know, Energy Ball, has Dazzling Gleam to hit Dragon types. It also has Grass Knot to you don't really need Grass Knot, but you have Energy Ball, so you don't really need to run Grass Knot. But yeah, you probably want to try and fit Flash Cannon somewhere as a stab, but at least this can hit Fairy type Pokemon for, you know, super effective damage, obviously as a Steel type. But yeah, some abilities, I mean, the abilities are alright. They just basically grant Typhlosion electric immunity. Either you go Motor Drive to boost your speed, or you go Lightning Rod. But yeah, this just lacks the power that normal Typhlosion has, because you don't have 150 base power Eruption, or particularly strong other strong stab options. Like, at least Fire Blast comes in at 110 base power, and you know, T-Bolt comes in at 90, so it's not that crazy, and normal Typhlosion is better than this. But the Mega form of Delta Typhlosion, again, we covered this Pokemon, and yeah, Shiny is pretty cool, though, I'll be honest. But yeah, Supercell, we discussed it. You get 50% boost in Rain and New Moon, and this thing, not gonna lie, if you drop this thing into Gen 9 OU, I think this thing would revive Rain. I'm not gonna lie. Like, obviously Rain was suffering for a little bit in Gen 9 OU, but you know, you saw something like Archaladon, a steel type Pokemon that had an electric move that could boost its special attack and then, you know, do a lot of damage and just not die because of its ability. Stamina, Mega type Delta Typhlosion could do the same thing. Obviously it has stab on you know, electric type moves, so it could run Thunder with perfect accuracy in the sun. I mean, in the Rain, you have Flash Cannon, a Stab, Energy Ball. You basically have the same moves, but obviously you have a 50% boost to your special attack, which comes in at 159 base special attack. You're obviously locked out of an item, but you don't really care. It's not like you have to run Boots to make sure you're not taking 25% Stealth Rock damage when you actually resist Stealth Rocks. And then, yeah, you're just a very threatening Pokemon in general. You know, you have the Steel typing of Archaladon as well, so you come in with quite a multitude of resistances, with actually quite decent bulk for an offensive Pokemon. So yeah, this one would definitely be in OU if, you know, it would bring Rain back into OU if it actually existed. So yeah, Mega Delta Typhlosion. Both Megas from Pokemon Insurgents did a pretty good job of, you know, making Typhlosion as threatening as possible. Now, moving on to another form here. The last form that we can talk about here on the Pokeathlon site is the Echo Typhlosion from Pokemon Infinity. Now, as cool as this looks, it's probably the worst Typhlosion we're going to be going over in this, you know, video, which is a shame, to be honest, because it has a pretty solid design, and the shiny colors are quite nice as well. You still keep that sort of pinkish, reddish sort of color that the regular Typhlosion had, but, you know, I can see the vision with all these fan-made Typhlosions. The fact that they're just making it either a fire type or an electric type, it works quite well. But either way, you have a fire-electric Typhlosion here from Pokemon Infinity. It has the ability Static and Cloud9. Cloud9 is kind of useful. I mean, it's more useful than Static in this context. But, you know, looking at the stats, and the Echo forms always managed to make you know, the regional forms differentiate themselves in terms of stats compared to their original forms, which Insurgents didn't really do. To be honest, they just copy and pasted the stats. But yeah, Echo Typhlosion here, 120 special attack, much higher than normal Typhlosion. Then it comes with 97 base speed, so you're 2 points faster than Hisui Typhlosion, which, you know, came out in Legends Arceus. And then, you know, you're quite bulkier on the defensive side as well. Fire Electric, though, you know, not the best typing defensively. You're Stealth Rock weak, times 4 weakness to ground. But to be fair, you only get 1 weakness from electric and 3 weaknesses from fire. So you only end up having 4 weaknesses, which isn't that much. But when one of them is a times 4 ground weakness, you do really have to watch out. So what does this thing have access to? Now, it doesn't get Eruption like normal Typhlosion, which is going to be a pretty big problem for it, I'll be perfectly honest with you. But, yeah, let's see what it has access to, because this is already not following, you know, typical Typhlosion norms. It doesn't have access to Eruption, but it does have, you know, electric moves now. It now can use T-Bolt as stab, which is pretty nice. It has Volt Switch, it has Fire Blast. In terms of setting up, I don't think it gets anything to set up with. Oh, well, it does get Calm Mind, which is interesting. So this could actually be like a Calm Mind Pokemon, at least in the current generation. But again, this is not anything too crazy, to be perfectly honest with you guys. It is like still a Typhlosion at the end of the day, especially one that doesn't break 100 speed and also comes with a worse defensive typing. Like, this is arguably even worse than Hisuian Typhlosion, because you don't even get Eruption. So a lot of your breaking power isn't really there compared to, you know, normal and Hisuian Typhlosion. And that is better than Delta Typhlosion on its own. Delta Typhlosion is probably the worst Typhlosion I'm going to be covering. But yeah, Echo Typhlosion, nice design wise, probably has a lot of theme into it, which I haven't obviously checked up. But, you know, just lacking Eruption is really, really bad. Like, if this at least had Eruption, you could go Choice Specs with a stronger, you know, Pokemon. Like, again, this is one special attack stronger than Hisuian Typhlosion. So, you know, you could actually just end up doing a lot more damage, especially with an Electric Stab, which is able to target water types, you know, as a fire type. But yeah, Echo Typhlosion does get the short end of the stick there, unfortunately. But at least the design is a lot cooler than the Delta Typhlosion form. And finally, we're back on the Elite Redux website here. Again, yeah, we're going to be talking about Elite Redux Typhlosion here and its associated Hisuian form and Mega Evolution that it gets in Elite Redux. So yeah, Elite Redux, like we showed in the first video that we made on Elite Redux, each Pokemon has access to 3 abilities that they can choose from, plus 3 innate abilities that they will always have activated. Now, Typhlosion here, it seems like your usual Typhlosion here, but it does get 1 extra point into its special attack. Yes, such a massive difference. But yeah, coming in at 110 special attack, 100 speed, and now is a fire ground type. And you're probably wondering, why is Typhlosion a ground type now? Its ability Earthbound. Well, no, it's not actually. Why does it become a it just becomes a ground type, because why not? But yeah, so it has 3 new abilities now. Blaze is an innate ability now, so you know, what do you call it? We don't have to speak about Blaze, but let's talk about these 3 new abilities. We all know what Sand Rush does, because, you know, you get a boost in Sandstorm, but in Elite Redux it is a 1.5 boost, so you know, it's not as much as it is in the mainline games. Now, Earthbound though, Earthbound is a ability, boost ground type moves by 20% or 1.5 times when under a third of HP. So I like how they changed all these abilities like Blaze, Torrent, and added you know, their respective other types to these sort of abilities. So you get a 20% boost naturally, and then it gets increased to 50% when you're below a third of HP, which is really, really cool. And then the last ability here is Pyromancy. Moves inflict burn 5 times as often. 5 times. So like if a move has a chance to burn, it's literally just gonna burn 5 more times than that, which is actually kind of crazy. You know, you take into account the moves that obviously gets like Fire Blast and Flamethrower. Obviously this has a 20% chance to burn now, so is Fire Blast just gonna guaranteed burn now? Which is actually insane, because if you times 20% by 5 you get 100%, so Fire Blast just gonna burn every time. But obviously with these abilities you can only choose one of them, so either you're running Pyromancy to pretty much guaranteed burn on like Fire Blast, or you're running Earthbound to increase the stab, your stab options on you know, the ground type side, which now that you're ground type you get access to Earth Power on the special side, which is actually pretty solid. You also have Scorching Sands as well, which is also a pretty decent ability to move to have. But you know, Earth Power is a lot stronger, obviously. So yeah, looking at the innate abilities now, Typhlosion now also gets Berserk, which we all know what it does. If you're at half HP, the special attack gets boosted by 1 stage. And then we got a new ability here, which is called Flaming Soul, which at full HP gives +1 priority to fire type moves, which is actually really nice. Because if you keep Stealth Rock up, you bring in Typhlosion, it now has a +1 priority on Eruption regardless of speed, so Choice Specs is a lot more reliable to have. And then in terms of that, I don't even know if Eruption, what the hell is Eruption? Yeah, there it is. I was gonna say where's Eruption, but yeah, yeah, now your Eruptions are a +1 priority now, and yeah, you're pretty much just not gonna be outsped unless you have something faster on the opposing side, or something with a higher priority than that. So yeah, regular Typhlosion got the buff that it needed. It's definitely quite a threatening Pokemon now, especially if it had access to, you know, all of these abilities at the same time, at least all of its innate abilities. Plus, you know, something like Pyromancy could be very, very dangerous. But yeah, moving on to the Hisui Typhlosion, you know, because this also got some love as well. It now has 120 special attack, again boosting it by you know, 1 stage. But now it's a lot slower, which is quite interesting to see. Has 85 base speed, which is, you know, 10 speed lower, which is actually kind of unfortunate, but it gets a HP boost now, so I guess that's where the speed went into. But yeah, let's look at its normal abilities now. You have Early Grave, which, you know, is basically what Typhlosion had with its fire type moves, but it has a priority boost at full HP. You have Ethereal Rush, which gets a 50% boost in Fog, which seems to be a Redux exclusive weather condition. And then we have Set Ablaze, inflicting burn, also inflicts fear, and I think fear is an exclusive status condition in Elite Redux. I forgot what it does, but you know, I'll look into that later. I low-key forgot what it does, to be perfectly honest with you. But the innates here, again, we have Blaze. Pyromancy is now an innate ability for the Hisui Typhlosion, so this is going to be quite threatening as well, particularly if you want to click Fire Blast. And then it has Frisk, which, you know, is still one of the most useless abilities of all time. But, you know, seeing how it has 3 quite solid normal abilities, you know, I guess this is what Typhlosion has to use. So Eerie Fog, it seems like this activates, you know, the Fog condition. It does have some, you know, Elite Redux exclusive moves, but it still just gets what? Raging Souls. Let's see what this does. And Spectral Serenade. Serenade, I mean, my bad. English is not English in today. But yeah, 130 base power, 100% accuracy. Yeah, that's quite a solid ghost type attack. 130 base power, that's insane. And then Spectral Serenade here is 130 base power, 100 accuracy, and it hits on both sides. It seems like it does physical and special damage. I'm not too sure how that works, but you know, but yeah, this is a buff that both Typhlosions have gotten. And then finally, Mega Typhlosion from Elite Redux. Let's see what it has access to. It pretty much just did what the Insurgents Mega Evolutions did, and I think this is the only way that like a Mega Typhlosion could realistically be done, because at that point you get the 100 base stat improvement as a Mega Evolution, and you're either going to put that into your speed special. Like, it's not like Typhlosion is going to suddenly become a, you know, physical attacker. Like, this thing is exclusively special attacker. So obviously, if you just want to make a better Pokemon, increase its special attack and increase its speed is what you can realistically do. It comes in with 110 special 110 speed and 150 special attack, with a new ability called Volcano Rage, which triggers a 50 base power eruption after using a fire type move. So anytime you attack, you're just going to get hit with a 50 base power eruption afterwards, which is actually pretty insane. Now, its innate abilities now are Hellblaze, which boosts fire type moves by 30% and 80% below a third HP. So it's just an upgrade from Blaze here, basically. So Hellblaze, what? Wow, it's really in the name, isn't it? It's really just in the fucking name. You add Hell onto Blaze. Okay, cool. Magma Eater, which is Predator plus Molten Down. And I don't know if anyone remembers what Predator does, but Predator is basically that ability that Redux Garchomp had, which I believe boosted your speed on a KO. And then Molten Down is an ability that I'm going to have to do some research on. Molten Down, fire type is super effective against rock type, really solid ability. And let's double check what Predator does again. Dealing a KO. Oh, okay, it's not boosting speed. It is literally just dealing a KO heals 25% of this Pokemon's max HP, which is also quite a tough ability, I won't lie to you guys. So yeah, that's what Mega Typhlosion has access to. And then you get Flaming Soul here, which at 1 HP, yeah, we've seen what Flaming Soul does. But yeah, what this thing can do now, you know, you get Eruption. Yeah, full HP, you just start spamming Eruption, and then you get another Eruption. So like you have 150 base power Eruption plus another Eruption at 50 base power. So you just get a 200 base power stab option coming off of 150 special attack, and then you get a 30% boost thanks to Hellblaze, which also becomes 80% when you're below a third of HP. Yeah, this is a broken Pokemon. And then you recover your HP every time you get a KO, and your fire type moves are now super effective against rock type. So you pretty much have no solid switch-ins. Like rock types can't switch in on you because you're now a ground type, and then they can't even switch in on your fire type moves either because of Magma Eater as your innate ability. But yeah, that is it for all of the Typhlosions that we can possibly cover. If there are any other Typhlosions I missed, let me know down below. I should have covered them, but obviously I don't really know any other fan games that have made Typhlosion that crazy. But obviously these are the most obvious ones that I could have gone over, you know, Insurgents Mega Typhlosion, Elite Redux Typhlosion, and obviously the mainline Typhlosion. But yeah, Typhlosion is still the coolest start of all time. That will never change for me, and hopefully you guys know how cool Typhlosion can really be. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.